routine bites high, and ambitions are low, and resentment rides high, but emotions won't grow, and we're changing our ways, taking different roads. Love will tear us apart again. Love will tear us apart again. Why is this bedroom so cold? You turn away on your side. Is my timing not flawed? Our respect runs so right. Yet there's still this appeal that we've kept you alive. Love will tear us apart again. Love will tear us apart again. Cry out in your sleep, all my failings exposed. There's a taste in my mouth as desperation takes hold. Just that something so good just can't function no more. Love will tear us apart again. 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 Check out Sonata Like Immersions or subscribe to be the first to see them every week. What up, 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 what up? What up? What up, Twitch? What up, Pharaoh? What up, Textilian? What up, humanity? What up, Senator, you snarky bastard? It's your boy. What up, tiny people in Machetterino? The bots, the lurkers. It's your boy, your extremely fit boy. Your boy who went from doing like 4,000 to 5,000 steps a day to doing 12,000 steps a day. It's right. What up, old lobster? Yep. Oh, chapow. So yeah, job is decent. It ain't bad. Sorry, I forgot. Still doing the one car thing, so I had to take the wife to work right after work. Had a doctor's appointment, and that's why we're a little bit late. I know I wanted to do 1:00, but the two different things weren't happening, and now that we're here and then of course everything takes a little bit longer than you would think it should. But now we're here, and it is now. And we've got content. Daddy made you your favorite open wide. Here comes the content. It's a beautiful day to stay inside. Let's start off with some snark. We're on one of those, I just put everything in the bin and we're just do the stuff in order kind of days. So, Kayla says, whoever Kayla is and why we care what they say, everyone. I got to steal that from Paradigm. Gosh. That's getting cut out.
I told you. Benny, bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
So that's what I hear when anybody says, everyone hates Natasha Lyonne's AI movie. Here's why. Now, I haven't seen Natasha Lyonne's AI movie, so I can't hate it or endorse it, right? But apparently I hate it, and you hate it too.
So a few days ago, I just so happened to see AI pop up in a rather unexpected place, a jump scare, if you will. Forgive me if you have not been indoctrinated into the daily happenings of the RuPaul's Drag Race fandom, but basically the show's official YouTube channel posted an animated short called Jinx and Plasma's Gay Adventure. The now deleted short has some cute 2D drawn animation featuring Jinx Monsoon and Plasma, two popular queens from the series, taking a journey on some sort of Willy Wonka-esque riverboat. As the short goes on, something strange starts to happen. Basically, Jinx and Plasma are suddenly transformed into AI humanoid versions of themselves, and suddenly the whole short becomes uncanny and very bizarre looking. At some points they even
Fucking get over yourself. Jesus Christ.
Use footage from the actual show that clearly was transformed by whatever AI software that they ran it through. The short was not received well and left its audience with more questions than answers. After the online backlash, it simply vanished off the channel without a trace. To my knowledge, Drag Race has not acknowledged that it was ever posted, much less why. The reason why I never expected to see AI, at least so soon, in a place like the Drag Race YouTube channel is because, they tout themselves as a place where queer creatives can come and platform their art and, show off their voices in a way that is unrestricted, right? Additionally, Drag Race has a left-leaning fan base, and people who lean more to the left tend to be more reserved when it comes to the use of AI, as opposed to conservatives who love
Reserved? Reserved? Reserved. Reserved is a word you could use.
rolling around in the modern day phenomenon known as AI slop. But I think the situation represents an important truth in the age of AI, in the AI era, which is that even institutions that you respect and people you respect are going to get involved with AI eventually, right?
And that might cause you to do some self-reflection and thinking about the entirety of the thing, but no. Why would you do that? Why would you think about it and maybe reassess your positions when obviously, as Tim Pool says, it must be all of them?
Question is whether or not they're doing it ethically and whether or not that even matters.
Not to mention Tiny Tim. I mean, where the hell has Tiny Tim been lately? If we can figure out how to create AI that's going to decimate society as we know it in the next 3 to 5 years, then surely we can find a way to bring Tiny Tim back first. But I digress, because I can. And because I recently quit smoking. Unlike old ChatGPT, who's always right on topic and would never quit smoking, because frankly, Buddy Boy wouldn't even think to start.
Natasha Lyonne is a popular actress who has probably starred in something that you've watched or liked, such as Poker Face or Russian Doll or But I'm a Cheerleader. Lyonne is going to be making her directorial debut pretty soon on a film aptly titled Uncanny Valley. The film is set in the world of immersive video games and is said to blend live action and game elements, which is all well and good except for the fact that the film's creatives and producers are proudly boasting that elements of it.
Okay. So everyone hates Natasha Lyonne's AI movie that absolutely no one has seen, apparently.
Will be produced utilizing AI technology. Those elements are being developed by Asteria, a new AI-focused production company that Natasha Lyonne founded along with her partner, director and producer Bryn Musser. Natasha claims that Asteria is charting a new path forward in what is called ethical AI, meaning that whatever visuals are generated here will be sourced properly. This feat will be accomplished by using an AI model created by the tech startup Moonvalley, which is reportedly being trained entirely on licensed material, whose original creators were
Natasha Lyonne, I highly recommend Russian Doll. It's on Netflix. I've enjoyed her in everything I've seen her in. She's got that, that sarcastic kind of fucking vibe. She's great.
Properly compensated. If you were unfamiliar, a lot of the AI slop that you see online was generated using models that steal from creatives without properly compensating them. And
nothing is stolen.
And because AI is not regulated and it's basically the Wild West out here, there is no infrastructure for that kind of exchange to take place currently. For example, YouTube videos are being used to train Google's AI model, and as of now, creators do not have a way to opt in or out of this. It's just the price we pay for doing business.
It's probably in the terms of service that you agree to
with the platform. Now, most people probably saw the headline, Natasha Lyonne to make AI-generated movie, and they went, well, I hate that, and did not make it a point to understand any of the nuances of what is actually happening here.
I mean, it's your title on your video. Was it clickbait to get all the people in? I am willing to eat my words, right? I am willing to, I have no problem getting a big old plate of crow and just, I'll fucking shovel that shit into my fucking grill. So if you come out with a nuanced take on the entire thing, which I find unplausible based on the things that you've already said in the previous 4 minutes we've been watching, but if you do, it's crow eating time.
However, and this is an argument that I go back and forth on, right? Does any of that nuance even matter? Here's what I mean. Natasha is clearly very passionate about the use of ethical AI. Check out this quote from her interview with THR following the backlash. Of course the movie's going to be shot like a real movie. Now I'm really threatening to just shoot it on 35mm or something to prove the point because we are using real-life human cinematographers and production designers and all of that. I'm a Mr. Movie Phone. There's nothing I love more than movies. Cinema is my very celluloid blood that runs through these veins. I love nothing more than filmmaking, the filmmaking community, the collaboration of it, the tactile fine art of it. I love every aspect of it. It's so incredible. I understand my own church in a way, even when the rest of the world doesn't make sense. In no way would I ever want to do anything other than really create some guardrails or a new language. Her whole point is that AI is coming for the film and television industry whether we want it to or not, so piloting the use of it in a more ethical sense is better than turning a blind eye to it altogether, right? I've covered this before on the channel, but in a technical sense, in terms of editing and VFX and post-production, there is a very blurry line as far as what is considered AI and what isn't. An example from earlier this year was the controversy surrounding the film The Brutalist using an AI tool to touch up Adrian Brody's Hungarian accent work. But tools like this have been used in post-production long before the term artificial intelligence was developed as a sort of negative catch-all.
Do you bother to think? Do you think, Mark? Think! Do you bother to fucking think? Do you hear the words coming out of your own mouth?
Where does the barrier end between a piece of technology that helps humans produce better creative work and a piece of technology that replaces that human in the equation altogether? This is the problem that I don't think
It doesn't exist, because every piece of technology that helps someone. What up, Cosmic? We just got started. You didn't miss anything you would probably care about anyway. Every piece of technology that is used in some field has replaced a human being doing the same work. All of it, everywhere. That's what technology does. The entire purpose of technology, the invention of the goddamn wheel, and we have a video about the invention of the goddamn wheel today. The invention of the goddamn wheel meant that two people didn't have to carry the friggin' thing. One person could do the thing with and then have a wheel, right? Like a wheelbarrow. The job is good. I'm walking a lot and getting in shape and eating better food and smoking less. So all positives.
Natasha Lyonne has adequately addressed in her responses when talking about this issue. Because sure, your AI model can be
Says the dude who went for a fucking however many mile run and told us all about it. Absolutely, you should flex. You should celebrate all wins. What up, Big Ben?
ethically trained. It could be using work that was, fairly compensated. The creators on the other end of that work were all squared away and everything's all well and good. But the principle of the thing is that maybe that AI that you're using to generate background assets or whatever could theoretically be taking a job away from a post-production artist or an editor.
Not theoretically. Absolutely. Absolutely. taking jobs. Every piece of technology ever developed has taken a job away from someone. Every single one.
Or a VFX creator. So the backlash to all of this was pretty intense to begin with, but then it really kicked up after another interview that Natasha did where she claimed that the late great director David Lynch told her that he thought AI was good actually. Apparently Natasha and Lynch were neighbors, and one day she asked him about—
Have you ever seen a fucking David Lynch movie? Of course David Lynch would think AI was good actually. He, for no fucking reason, but other than, as far as I can tell, just because he wanted to, he filmed entire scenes in reverse and had the actors learn how to speak lines in order to, like, kind of make it sound like they were saying those words going forward. It's weird and shit. But if you watch fucking David Lynch, and you're not, like, you know, being fucking, you know, intentionally obtuse. David Lynch absolutely, the dude has lived in the uncanny valley. He had a summer home and there was a little lake there that he used to fish on. He loved the uncanny valley.
the topic, and he reportedly said, quote, "Natasha," he said, "this is a pencil. Everyone has access to a pencil, and likewise, everyone with a phone will be using AI if they aren't already. It's how you use the pencil," he told her.
I didn't even know he said that about the pencil. But we are allegedly, right? Like, obviously, this is a conversation that allegedly occurred between Natasha and David. But assuming that it actually did occur, yes, David. Yes, I wish you were still alive so you could tell people.
You see? Now, there is no way of knowing whether or not this actually happened. I'm inclined to believe that it didn't, although that is a weird thing to make up.
I'm inclined to think that it didn't happen, except it's a weird thing to make up. Right, because just what you're doing, you are assuming that Natasha made up an anecdote in order to support her position. And you are equally willing to discount that anecdote because it doesn't support your position.
But either way, using a dead man's words to justify your own actions is a little bit ick to me, I don't know. Especially because, and this goes back—
Fuck you. I don't even have a clever response to that. Just go fuck yourself.
Back to the silent problem here that's bigger than an individual AI use case in a way, David Lynch couldn't get his final projects made because he couldn't secure funding, because no studio or streamer will take a financial risk anymore, even for one of the most iconic creatives to ever walk this earth. And an industry that won't value creatives when they're here only to turn around and lionize them when they die and then pretend like they were never part of the initial problem, likely does not value the humanity at the core of this issue. Sure, they can all get on board with an ethical AI model because there's a profit exchange occurring there, but the problem is that nobody cares about the stuff that doesn't have to do with the money. The use of AI is coming to the entertainment world whether we like it or not. They're just hiding it right now until it's not taboo anymore. But here's what's happening while they pretend that they're still against it. An Elon Musk-owned AI supercomputer is currently polluting the air quality in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's
Yeah, fucking Elon Musk is a terrible human being doing terrible human being shit.
Only expected to get worse. CEOs are warning that AI will wipe out half of all white-collar jobs. This could all be stopped or at least regulated in a way that makes sense for the current time and era that—
Yeah, you're not a leftist, dude. I mean, I'm too tired today to fucking play this fun little game that we do where, like, you know, you want other people to work. You want to be the arbiter of who works and who doesn't, right? You want people to work. That's where you're at. You're a liberal. It's cool. Just own it, right? Like just own being a liberal. That's fine. But just do that.
We're living in, if the folks in charge decided that they simply cared about people and what happens to them. There are ethical uses for this technology. There are ways that it is innovating in industries that we don't even know about or that we rarely hear about. But the issue is that you constantly just hear about the evil that is running rampant unchecked in comparison. I fully believe that Natasha Lyonne thinks she is doing the right thing because she's doing more than the people behind the scenes in the industry who know they're using AI for insidious reasons. I believe that if every entertainment company had it their way, they would just be putting out AI slop like that short on the Drag Race channel because they don't value art or people and they want you to be okay with it.
Why was this slop? Why was it slop? What made this slop? Or is just everything AI is slop, ergo you just say, you know, it's slop. And this is why I hate the whole AI slop fucking thing, right? Is because of that. You can just hand wave anything. You don't have to have any kind of critical artistic opinion. You don't have to critique it in any meaningful way. You just, oh, it was AI slop, done. No, I don't know. I didn't see the video, but I feel like it was one of those, based on what we saw in this video, it felt, what up, brother? It felt like it was just like a magical transformation scene, like has appeared in many kind of things, where they went from being 2D cartoon figures to being three-dimensional figures in a thing, right? Like, and on a budget. Yes, could they have hired actors to do the thing? Could they have created this set that has them paddling in a canoe or a gondola kind of in the middle there? You know, like, how much would all of this have cost in order to get done? And it wouldn't have existed at all because it's too much for Drag Race. I assume that Drag Race is on tight budgets.
That. And right now, because it's new and scary, most people aren't okay with that. They see the ethical concerns in it and they're raising them accordingly. But I fear that this technology is going to get so advanced that AI slop will become a thing of the past. There will be no way to distinguish real art from art generated by a facility that's killing your grandma and causing the fish in the creek to grow legs. They're banking on us
just pulling shit right out the ass.
They're learning not to care or camouflaging their tactics so well that there's not a reason to make a fuss in the first place. And in some ways, some people don't care anymore. If you've been on Twitter in the last few days, maybe you've seen this 16 carriages meme where people are using AI to alter Beyonce's tour photography as a joke. These posts all have a ton of likes, and I'm sure that if you asked some of these people liking them, they would have some sort of negative sentiment as a gut reaction around AI technology, but they're just not even registering that it was used to create something this innocuous. Before I made this video, because I was really struggling to come up with a topic about like what to talk about this week, and I posted just like, you know, a community post in jest about how if I couldn't come up with a topic, I was just gonna title it like Labubu, AI, chocolate, Dubai, latte, Love Island, or whatever, and I was just gonna kind of go on a rant about how like that collection of words is how I feel and how I engage with the world all the time now, if that makes sense. And then, while that sentiment is obviously comedic in nature, you know, to be taken in jest, obviously, I do feel like the current, like, disconnect that we all feel and you know, every day waking up and not understanding, like, some new trend or meme or being just generally grossed out by the overconsumption that we all seem to be enthralled in that takes over every social media algorithm in our lives, right? I feel like the real world...
You cannot. I have a barely passing knowledge of what the fuck Labubu is. I don't know what the fucking Dubai matcha chocolate shit is. Right? And I am the most on the internet motherfucker that you know. Right? Like every less so now. Because you know, I'm working 8 hours a day. And I can't be on my phone 8 hours a day. But prior to that, I was the most internet being on motherfucker that you know. And I don't have to put up with any of this shit. You don't either. You throw your hands up and leave yourself to the whims of the algorithm and then get mad when the algorithm feeds you fucking overconsumptive garbo. Like, just fucking embrace. You know, you want to talk about empower yourself, motherfucker.
The world is also becoming AI slop. That's like the best way I can describe it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I feel. It's not a great feeling. For example, I came across this tweet about a store in Florida that's selling Dubai chocolate Labubu items. If you're unfamiliar, Dubai chocolate is chocolate with pistachio filling that became really trendy and popular in the last few years, and Labubus are the new...
Now I know. No, you can be, that's what I'm saying, Maddie, is you can be online all day long and not have to, like, I didn't know what Dubai chocolate was, and now I do, and I don't particularly thank you for telling me about it. And I had a passing understanding of what the Labubu things were, and like that. You can just not, baby. You can just not.
Beanie Baby, Tamagotchi, blind box phenomenon, you know, they're a toy that people of all ages love.
Like, this is the kind of shit that my niece watches, right? Where, like, this is something that, this is the same vibe that they did for children. Right? Like, there are a fuck ton of little short videos on the internet and on YouTube for fucking children where, like, they unpack toys and they get all fucking excited about the goddamn toys. So the kids at home, they get to see the kid opening up the toys and then get all excited, and they both get all excited because they're children.
And like, doesn't this look like a thing you would throw into an AI image generator? A couple of things that don't really go together but are popular, and now they're their own bastardized version of an item that really just represents a culture of overconsumption and nothing.
Yeah, welcome to capitalism, my G.
I feel the same way about the Benson Boone Crumble collab, you know, the Moonbeam ice cream cookie?
I do not know the Moonbeam ice cream cookie.
Like, sure, marketing collabs have always been a thing, especially like food marketing collabs. We all remember, you know, the Travis Scott McDonald's meal. Like, that's not a
I also do not remember the Travis Scott McDonald's
new thing, but I just look at this and I'm like, this is AI generated. This is an AI.
No, this is you watching human generated content that you begged for, that you asked for, that you're like, fucking, fuck the AI, we have humans and the humans should be creating shit, and look at all this human stuff and like that, and then you get human stuff and you're like, God, this stuff is AI, and it's like, no. Jesus fucking Christ.
AI-generated idea. My overall point being that I can't help but feeling like everything around me is slowly morphing into the same kind of indistinguishable AI-generated or AI-inspired slop garbage, and
These are human hands making human fucking Dubai chocolate. There was a human dude with Labubus all over the place. These are humans. This is what you asked for. You can't blame this on the AI. Crazy pills.
I bet celebrities like Natasha Lyonne are feeling this squeeze and feeling this pressure, especially as AI technology continues to be more normalized and integrated into industries like television and film. But I think the decision to embrace this technology in a somewhat ethical way is being undercut by the way that everyone else in the world is currently operating unethically. I don't necessarily think Natasha's idea is a bad one. The notion that if this technology is going to be pervasive in a lot of our creative endeavors going forward, the least we can do is find a sustainable way to credit the actual creatives that the AI models are taking from. And she's probably not the first of her kind in the industry to be thinking this way, she's just the loudest. And if we weren't talking about something as controversial and polarizing and kind of insidious as AI, that would maybe be more commendable. Because the alternative here is that all of these production companies and streamers and marketing agencies are probably already using AI technology in whatever it is that they're producing, they are just not being loud about it because of how controversial it currently is. I mean, I don't know about you, but every time I watch cable TV and I'm looking at commercials, I feel like what I'm watching is AI generated. Maybe I'm just like extremely paranoid now with what I'm viewing and it's become.
I figured it out. She thinks that AI means capitalist. She thinks capitalism is when the AI, right? Like, no, this is just commercialism, like the consumerist nature, the weird commercials have always existed. They have always existed long before the current AI, long before 2022. I will. I will look at the clips later, Pharaoh. I have to keep it tight and try to get there. Like, we've been here for 40 minutes and we have barely gotten through the first video. And unfortunately, I got to keep this a short one. I will be back tomorrow, and I will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. But I haven't showered. I haven't eaten. Like, I ate at work, but I haven't eaten since I got home. But I missed y'all, and I promised I would be here, and so here I am, as always. Now, I appreciate you, Pharaoh. You are a blessing.
Harder again to distinguish, or maybe perhaps a lot of these companies are trying to style their visuals in a way that already look like AI to get us more used to it. An example I'm thinking of off the top of my head is that Wicked teaser.
So the people are being trained on the AI. We have come full circle.
It's all here to stay, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you. But that doesn't mean that it's easy for me to be able to buy into whatever Natasha is trying to sell here. I fear that the world is ending, and even those looking to make the world a better or more ethical place are being over.
I have been up, Maddie, since 2 o'clock or 2:30 in the morning, and I worked an entire day, and I sweat, and I walked 12,000 steps, and and we're having fun, right? That's the game. Do I have to deal with people at work? To an extent, but everyone is so task focused at work that I don't actually have to deal with. The only time so far, it's only been 2 days, right? Slow your roll, but the only time I really deal with people is like in a positive, helpful way. Like, everybody's helping each other out to move things along and make sure that the proper things are being done, and like that. It's a very positive work environment. I met the person who looks after like workers' safety. She's great. She is fucking cool. She says the right words.
Overshadowed by those with more power.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Have you gotten that looked at, Eddie? You don't want ear infections. Like a week's long ear infection is like no. Remember, like people used to die of shit, right? Like I understand, like fucking money and having to go to the whatever and do the thing, but fucking don't die, Maddie. Don't go deaf.
Who are constantly looking for ways to monetize the rot. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go watch Labubu blind unboxing videos until my prefrontal cortex is so fried that everything starts making sense again.
Keep getting the wrong Labubu color, like I'm sick of this shit! I hate you so much! I spent $300 on these stupid Labubus, bro. I want a pink one. That's the one I've been trying to get. If this isn't pink, bro, I'm crashing out.
I hate it here. Oh, I want to repeatedly bang. Oh, I hate it here. There it is. I want to repeatedly bang my head into the microphone until the voices stop. Jesus. Up next, lab-grown human brains stacked into towers for biocomputation. Oh shit, Textillion, I'm sorry to hear that. I am sorry to hear that. I was pretty inconsolable when my mom passed. All my love to you.
Things are getting weird for little human brain friends, you know, the tiny human brains that you can grow from stem cells and have run a computer. For the last several years, since the inception of these little guys, researchers have been trying to incorporate them with AI and figure out how to make them better. Yes, tiny human brains make pretty decent computation tools, and there's a cloud that you can utilize them remotely. 2 companies now, Final Spark and Cortical Labs, have opened up operations where they deploy thousands of these little guys in a warehouse and sell their computation remotely online. And of course, we have the very first brain organoid computer that you can purchase. It costs about $30,000. And you have to grow the brain organoids yourself. They live for about 6 months, although some researchers have gotten them to live for a year or more, and they work better in groups. We've also seen them operate a variety of different kinds of robots. They're very good with spatial recognition. They can move around a room and operate a body, which makes sense because our brains were kind of evolved to operate a body. My favorite is the spider robot. This was conceived by Alison Moultrie in UC San Diego. I'm still waiting on the paper from this. He told me it would come out in 2024, but I've yet to see the paper published. We've also seen them operate snake robots. This one came from a group that wanted to see if they could replicate the 2 halves of the brain and put 2 brain organoids in charge of running a snake robot. It worked. My hypothesis is people are trying to figure out the creepiest possible body to put these guys in. But back to this paper. There are some limitations on the brain organoids. It's hard to keep them alive for a long period of time. They almost always expire from hypoxia. That is a problem because the longer they're alive, the more complex they grow to be and the better they are at computation. I would have thought that you would want a single type of neuron to perform these tasks, but no. They do better in groups and they do better with complex neural structures. So why not just grow them in a tower? That's exactly what they did. They grew them from single cells in Matrigel, which is essentially mouse tumor jello.
Yeah. If this is your first experience with the brain organoids, I highly recommend going to GT's channel and just watch all the ones about brain organoids and get caught up. This shit is wild. We are this is why I don't give a fuck about the Labubus. We got brain organoids, fucking driving robots.
This gel allows them to grow into each other. They'll grow into just about anything next to each other. They operate very much like Legos. You can just pop them together. In this case, they were just grown near each other, and they grew little projections into other organoids. It actually does work, and the more that are together, the more complex their brainwaves become. You can see day 30 here with
Nemesis?
just 30 in the chip. But with 22 all in tandem, you can see they have much more complex brainwaves. Each one of these is an individual, and yeah, you can imagine if one perishes, when they add another, it can retrain it. This could allow them to do specific tasks, which we've already seen them get better at when operating in a chip, just with 16. There really is no limit here. You could have thousands of brain organoids all working together. We haven't really seen what kind of complex behaviors emerge when you have quite that many. You could also have individual brain components, each operating a different lobe of the brain coming together, and it might give us interesting computation power. I say interesting, we really don't know the capabilities of these guys. Now, when these guys were grown on a computer chip, like Final Spark does, they have 16 organoids to a chip, so if one expires, another one can just come in, and the others can train it. But if they're communicating through actual physical neural pathways, rather than a computer chip through electrodes, it does go faster. I could see an array like this work if one of them expires, which does tend to happen. They could excise it out and pop a new one in, and they do pretty well growing into other neural structures. We've seen examples where you took a brain organoid, grew it near the decapitated spine of a mouse, and it made projections and can even take control of the muscles of the mouse do pretty well growing into other neural structures. We've seen examples where you took a brain organoid, grew it near the decapitated spine of a mouse, and it made projections and can even take control of the muscles of the mouse that is no longer a mouse. They have no problem hybridizing with anything. You can make mouse-human brain organoids. You can pop a brain organoid into the skull of a live mouse, and it'll make connections and start working with the mouse brain. They are essentially fetal brains, and if
I wanna make sure that shit sunk in. They take stem cells and create brain organoids, and then they put the brain organoids in the mouse brain, and it hybridizes with the mouse brain. And if they put it near the spine of a decapitated mouse, it takes control of the mouse. I just think it's fucking wild, Hydran. It's just some really wild shit. That and I don't know. Like, I don't know if they've done experiments with like other brains, right? Have they taken like rat brain and put it in mouse brain, and does it do the same thing? Or is there something about human brain that does this? And what the fuck does that mean?
If there's one thing we know about human brains is they'll just grow with anything. Do the best with what you got. That's why people who are born without limbs tend to use their other limbs pretty well. We adapt. What the brain structure will allow us to do is more complex computation. Brain organoids aren't good at handling data from LLMs, for example. They're not very good with linear information. They can learn language, though. They're far better when utilized for things like controlling a body or finding their way through spatial information, so navigation, for example. Largely what brain organoids have been useful for is medication testing and development. This kind of structure could allow you to get a lot of information from just one little cube, or it could be used for computation. This technology is still pretty nascent, for lack of a better pun. This kind of structure could actually allow us to have a brain organoid as large as our own brains, just made out of modular components suspended in mouse goo.
So today, I'm going to talk.
I want to save this for tomorrow. What up, Stellar Wingman? What up, Michael? Let me edit. Because I want, I'm embracing the chaos of today. I have to, again, keep it short. So I want to do, please hold. Your call will be answered in the order in which it was. We value you as a customer. If you'd like to know more, please go to our website at www.globustheelder.com. Yeah, and I want to do this one. All right.
This is an amazing new, free and open simulation method that solves an almost impossible problem. And it's a bit like a virtual playground for grown-up people, and somehow we even get paid to run experiments like this.
Yeah, Ben. The brain organoids always gets them, right? Like people who haven't heard of the tiny brains and think it's like a metaphor for something, and then it's like, no, we have been talking about the tiny brains for what, year and a half at this point, longer.
And I'll give you a link to it so you can try a mini version of it right now yourself at home for free. It is super mega fun. Now, hold on to your papers, fellow scholars, and check this out. This collaboration between Roblox and the University of Utah can run this amazing scene easily faster.
This collaboration between Roblox and the University of Utah. That's where we are. What up, Nick? I can understand it. I can understand everyone's reaction. No matter what your reaction is to the brain organoids, I completely understand it.
Then real time. Yup, at 100 frames per second on one consumer graphics card. Goodness! Now, a previous version of it was called Vertex Block Descent, VBD, that could simulate these incredible scenes that are modeled as an interaction of millions and millions of points. This would be incredible to have in all kinds of games and movies. So, are we done here? Why write this newer paper? Do we even need more research here? Well, the previous VBD technique was not perfect. In fact, you'll see a bunch of previous methods fail on cases that seem totally baffling. Just to make sure, whenever we talk about number of iterations, that means how much computational effort we spend on each frame to get things right. Of course, higher is better, but we also have to wait for longer. In return, the simulation gets more accurate. However, the question is, how much better? For instance, when using the previous method to roll a few balls at a house of cards, it doesn't matter how many iterations you use here, this is flat out incorrect. Why? Well, suddenly collisions are not working properly because it generates an excessive amount of friction. Wow, that is unexpected. However, what I found to be even more unexpected— what? Are you kidding me? You'd think simulating a simple pendulum would be a solved problem, right? We've been doing this for decades. Well, so far so good. What could possibly go wrong? Well, this. Oof. The old methods completely break down. The chain stretches like a piece of gum. How could they fail on something so simple? And then, the new technique, Augmented Vertex Block Descent, EVBD, rock solid, is the moment you realize even the simple things weren't truly solved until now. Bravo! So, what is the problem? The problem is that the mass of the ball is 50,000 times higher than the chain holding it, which is given by 50 connected bodies. Imagine having a Tesla Model S hanging off of a few Lego bricks. Of course, it results in an excessive amount of stretching with previous methods. But not with the new one, which is the correct solution. Amazing. And when we throw a ball through a chainmail, once again, previous methods do something. Well, unfortunately, this is incorrect. all of them are incorrect. Given the physical properties of the scene, the collision constraints cannot overcome the momentum of the ball. However, the chainmail is supposed to hold up the ball. So, does it with the new method? Wow, once again, so much better. Loving this. But now it gets even more crazy. Dear fellow scholars, this is 2-Minute Papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. Now,
And if you're trying to figure out why do we give a shit, it's because the physics simulation in video games has always trended towards simulating reality, right? When you play a game, when you do something that doesn't mesh with reality, then you tend to get pulled out of the game. So game companies have for years thrown more and more effort, time, and money into attempting to create physics that reflect reality. And the thing is, when you have a world model that can accurately reflect reality, then that increases the quality of the simulation that AI and robots function in when they do their simulations. And those simulations can then translate better to reality. And that's why we give a shit.
Now, hold on to your papers, fellow scholars, because even a few blocks connected by springs can give the previous method a headache. So, just run it for longer, right? More iterations. Well, not so much. Look, and this is the part where I fell off the chair when reading this paper. The true solution.
I mean, he came and saw me when I sat down and started streaming. But, like, my son's been home.
Would be a perfectly straight.
And my wife was home too, so.
Arrangement. And the old method is still sagging even with 100 iterations. And the new one? Oh, wow! Even at one iteration, it is close to perfect. Much better than the previous one at 100. This is absolutely incredible. And once again, my heart is aching because almost no one is talking about this paper. You can likely only hear about it here on 2-Minute Papers. Subscribe and hit the bell icon if you wish to see more like this and support us on this journey because it is not easy. YouTube is not recommending this kind of content that much if you don't help out. And to think that all this improvement happened in just 1 year, and it is all handcrafted, powered solely by human ingenuity. And we get all of this for free. What a time to be alive! So, how does it do all this black magic? You see, it is called Augmented Vertex Block Descent. And the augmented part means that instead of being too rigid from the start, it gradually adjusts how strict it is about enforcing rules during physics simulation. It's a bit like a bouncer at the club. A bouncer's job is to keep people behind the velvet rope. And if one person leans on the rope, the bouncer might just put a hand up. But if a group of people starts pushing, the bouncer plants their feet and pushes back harder. Their effort adapts to how much the rule is being broken. And that is what this technique does. Genius. And yes, I left a link in the video description so you can try a mini version of it yourself for free right now. And it is super fun. The source code is also available for it. A great contribution to humanity. Thank you so much. And if you wish to run DeepSeek yourself, Vest AI helps you rent NVIDIA GPUs to do that for an incredible price. I love it because my costs come down to a fraction of $1 for a session. It is incredible. Make sure
that's part of it, but also, like,
/papers or click
we
the link in the
know,
description.
again,
Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition.
we know what. Okay, it didn't take my updated goddamn. Giggity goddamn, cause Firefox sucks. We know that YouTube doesn't, what it puts in the algorithm. People gain the algorithm, right? That's the whole point behind the whole thing, is that people can game the algorithm. This is why people complain about what their algorithm feeds them, because instead of actually putting in the work to counter game your algorithm, you go ahead and just get mad and make a video about how everyone hates Natasha Lyonne's fucking AI movie that no one has actually seen yet because it hasn't been created, but everyone hates it, I guess, or something. I haven't seen Poker Face. I enjoyed Russian Doll. I thought Russian Doll was quite good. All right. Let's listen to Anton. Anton's going to tell us about the wheel.
Hello, wonderful person, this is Anton, and well, I'm actually currently in between studios, mostly because my old place got flooded, and so I have to record a few videos somewhere else. But because I also lost a bunch of footage and essentially lost my hard drives, I had to quickly come up with some additional videos, including this one, on various scientific topics that I personally find super interesting, but never got to explore. And well, in this video we're going to discuss something that I sort of came up with on the way here, as I was driving, and as I was looking at the wheels. As the title of the video suggests, we're going to discuss the wheel. Okay, I know, kind of cheesy and stuff, but bear with me. Because there is a really recent research that surprisingly discovers something we might have not known before. It potentially discovers a very unusual origin of the wheel as a concept, and it's absolutely not what anyone expected. And this is based on a lot of archaeological evidence and even scientific and engineering evidence, where scientists managed to provide...
Is Maddie still here? Because we're talking archaeology.
A relatively accurate model, basically showing us where the wheel possibly came from. And so in this video we're going to discuss the humanity's most fundamental invention. Possibly the most important invention in the early history that might sound kind of simple and kind of obvious today, really isn't. Especially because if you were to look at the history of humanity, the wheel as a concept is technically a relatively new invention. But for a very long time, well, really for centuries, historians and archaeologists pondered and argued on who actually invented the wheel and where did it really come from. And the answer turns out to be kind of fascinating, but also very unexpected. In essence, kind of also showing us how a lot of inventions came to be and how even early humanity learned to innovate in some really bizarre ways. With most of this based on a combination of computer simulations and analysis, and of course archaeological evidence from thousands of years ago. But here let's also start with some of the previous assumptions based on the evidence from various early cultures. So turns out it was not Egyptians, it was not Babylonians, and it was not any of the ancient cultures living in the Middle East that you'd think would be the ones inventing this crucial tool. I mean, we do have depictions of different wheels from ancient Sumerians, for example. This is from approximately 4,500 years ago, but there is no evidence that they were the first. We also know that wheels were invented independently in Mesoamerica or in the New World, but none of this had any practical use. And well, according to Wikipedia, this is the oldest wheel known to us. This is the Ljubljana Marshes wheel that seems to be about 5,100 years old. This would be in the modern-day Slovenia. And in this case, there is one relatively old research that scientists only started talking about again in relatively recent times. Now here you can find these studies in the description below, but in essence at least one of the studies seems to explore the idea of the wheel coming from the 4th millennium BC from Europe. This would be approximately 6,000 years ago, and it seems to have come as a result of early mining. Now here we actually have to first explore the idea behind how this probably started and why it kind of makes sense. And well, first let's ignore the wheel and let's start with the actual concept involved in this and how the early humans potentially thought about it. Now this is also based on some of the earliest evidence, but today archaeologists believe that most of this extremely likely started with simple rollers. Except that the problem with rollers is that you always have to carry them back to the front, and this was probably not a very effective way to transport things on any terrain that was not even. And so overall, rollers are just not very practical. But a lot of these new theories propose that it very likely started with a roller, but then as a result of friction and basically physics, something else started to happen. And here this is based on quite a lot of different evidence. More than 150 different wagons have been discovered in certain regions in Europe that all resembled something like this, but with different levels of complexity. In essence, showing a kind of an evolutionary process of how these wheels changed over time. And all this was from a culture most of us have probably never heard of before. They're referred to as Boleres culture, part of the Baden culture you see right here, marked in violet. And this was a culture living mostly in the Central and the Southern Europe, renowned for their extremely advanced pottery. And here we have the oldest evidence for actual wheeled objects, and specifically wagons, including ceramic wagons, or wagon-shaped pottery, sometimes made with a handle. Although obviously why they are made this way, nobody knows. And though no actual wagons have been discovered, so far the presence of wheeled objects and the presence of the pottery depicting wagons suggests that they were most likely able to create them and to use them for something. But these were definitely not toys. Mostly because on their surface there was also a kind of an engraving resembling a typical basket very often used by miners in this exact era. And so here archaeologists suggest that there's a direct link between mining operations and these unusual wagons. In other words, there's a kind of an indirect evidence for the use of these first wheels in order to transport something that was being mined, with the basic depiction being something like this. But the question is, how did these early miners manage to create this without advanced scientific knowledge, and moreover, made them almost perfect? And well, here the suggestion is that this was probably kind of by accident, but also through the process of trial and error, and it probably all started with rollers. But in order to make these rollers more functional, the first modification had to be the cart itself. These carts had to have some kind of a socket in order to hold the rollers in place, so you wouldn't have to move them all the time. And this of course meant that you only had to use 2 rollers instead of using a bunch of them, making things a lot more efficient. And though this was probably the first start, eventually, completely by accident, or possibly intentionally, these rollers started to kind of advance and change their shape, becoming thinner and thinner. And at first, it might have been just the result of friction. As these rollers were spinning, the friction between the sockets and the roller started to make the axle just a little bit thinner. Likewise, because this was inside the mine, the surface was not even and there were probably a bunch of rocks, and so there's a possibility that maybe some of these early miners started to make the axle just a little bit thinner in order to have it pass above the rocks and in order to help them roll on somewhat uneven surfaces. And so trial after trial and roller after roller, we eventually got something thinner and thinner that started to resemble a wheel and an axle. And that's of course kind of what we get here in some of these wagon models as well, because here we do have an axle and a wheel and not a roller at all. But in order to test this hypothesis, researchers behind the recent study, the study by James, Alacoque and Boulier, decided to examine this idea and simulate it using computer models. And the point was to start with a roller and then simulate the evolution of the roller into an actual wheel. And so here the algorithm modeled hundreds of different roller shapes, checking for mechanical advantage and structural strength, eventually evolving into the final shape that was essentially perfect. And pretty much every single time, it always ended up with a wheel and an axle. This was the optimal design, with the results of the simulation suggesting that the wheel was basically the perfect solution, and it's quite likely that these early
something 420, something time zone, something illicit, something. Smoke them if you got them.
civilizations managed to create this completely independently through trial and error. But this was probably a very long gradual process and did not happen right away. Either way, eventually, this would make these carts easier to push and these wheels much more efficient. And so according to the study and the explanation based
on something legal state, something
on this computer model, there was no single invention moment. This was basically not some kind of a eureka. This was a very gradual process, resulting from a continuous accumulation of very small, very practical improvements, most likely the result of the environment, which was possibly not very easy to work in. So in this case, if this was a mine, it would make a lot of sense. A typical roller would not work very well inside the mine, so here you would have to evolve something to make things just a little bit better. But obviously, the story of the wheel does not just end with the Carpathian miners, because the evolution of the wheel continued for many millennia. And even after these early innovations, as early as 200 years ago, a French bicycle mechanic managed to create something even more efficient. You can read about this in The Wheel by Richard Boullier, but here this was the invention of the radial ball bearings. Something that's conceptually identical to rollers, but in this case it's a rolling interface around the axle that prevents friction, bringing the wheel's evolution full circle. And even that is not the end of the story, because as recently as just a decade ago, NASA came up with even better wheels. And so here, since the beginning of the lunar exploration, with the lunar surface requiring a completely different way of transportation, NASA had to develop super elastic and airless tires, mostly because normal tires would just pop in the vacuum of space. With some of the newer wheels developed with the memory alloys, also known as SMAs or shape memory alloys, with one good example known as Nitinol. That's because it's made out of nickel and titanium. And so these new tires can usually survive a lot more pressure, a lot more strain, and will always revert to their initial shape, while also not being puncturable, containing nothing inside, and basically being perfect for all other extraterrestrial locations. And so even though some of the previous designs, such as the ones used on Mars, eventually broke, these newly designed shape memory alloy tires can actually survive pretty much any condition. Which is technically why one day you'll probably be able to buy them and use them in a regular vehicle, once they become cheap enough. At least for now, they are just a little bit expensive. And so in essence here, the evolution of wheel has not stopped yet, with the engineers continuously improving the design and trying to create something that's perfect. Something that never breaks, something that works in all conditions, and something that can be applied to pretty much anything that requires wheels. We're not there yet, but because there's been so many advances in the last 10 years, chances are that in the next few decades, we're actually going to start seeing some of these in the use on the roads, which essentially suggests that the evolution of the wheel has been actively going on for...
I don't know, Samsons. Like, the reason why tires don't work in snow is because it's difficult for the tire to get the snow out of the way between the, you know, the tire in the ground, right? So at least in theory, it would go through. I mean, it might fill up with snow and get hard, right? But it also might just fucking get the fuck out the way. Yeah.
For over 5,000 years since those early wheels in the Carpathian Mountains. And so even though we often assume that some of the groundbreaking technologies emerge in a single flash, basically a eureka moment, here this investigation of the concept of the wheel suggests otherwise. It suggests that wheels went through countless quiet revolutions, most likely driven by practical needs and a continuous quest for improvement, and something that seems to agree with the archaeological evidence. And so that's the story of the wheel. But as I mentioned, because the story hasn't finished yet, we'll probably come back and discuss this more once there are some updates, or once someone else comes up with some incredible wheel technology that just blows everything away. Until then, thank you for watching, subscribe, come back tomorrow to learn something else, maybe support this channel on Patreon where you can find additional videos you might have not seen before, and videos without ads, or by joining the channel membership that contains early access and a few more features. Or maybe by buying the Wonderful Person t-shirt you can find in the description. Either way, stay wonderful, I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, bye-bye.
And then he has like the fucking hour of fucking each of the pointy parts of the pattern and attraction and heat and noise. Yeah, no, like driving a 4-wheel drive truck with big chunky knobby tires in the snow is like a whole other experience. You know what I mean? All right. So I don't know anything about this. We didn't get to it. What up, Chef? Kimmy just broke the AI industry. Obviously, we're being hyperbolic for clicks and views, but what is Kimmy?
So this thing is going absolutely viral. It's the new DeepSeek moment. This time for agentic coding. This is Kimmy AI, another open source model out of China. Specifically, the model we're talking about is Kimmy K2. That's the coding model. And this thing is a beast. It's 1 trillion parameters. It's a big one. Now, I know sometimes a model comes out, it looks great on the benchmarks, but it just doesn't perform quite well. So before we look at the benchmarks, let's look at the actual outputs. Here's me asking it to create an interactive 3D simulation of the planet Earth. Make sure you have day-night cycles, kind of an independent cloud layer, that the cities light up at night on the dark side of Earth, on the night side. And make sure I can kind of rotate it around and look around on it. And here is the actual output. As you can see here, it one-shotted this thing, and I can just hit preview and it shows up here in the browser. So let's take a look at what this actually looks like, because it's looking pretty good. So first and foremost, notice there's a day side and a night side. I can rotate this thing at will. I can zoom out and zoom in. Very, very cool. Notice how, the US here is lit up. And then when it goes into the day side, you no longer see the, electricity lights. They come on at night. As you can see here, the US is slowly lighting up as, it becomes nighttime over there. Also, if you zoom in, you can see that the cloud layer is independent. So it's not just,
I feel like I'm seeing lights, like that, but still it's impressive as shit.
I mean, it's moving at a different pace from the planet, so it's independent of, the terrain, so to speak. Very, really good looking everything. Just phenomenal. I mean, it did it. One shot, no complaints. Phenomenal. Here's a slightly different take. I kind of wanted it to have the ability to launch meteors at the planet Earth, and then also have some sort of a rocket to defense system to defend us against these meteors. So let's see how well it did. Again, one shot, it nails it. So as you can see here, I already have kind of a score going, but let's say I launch the meteor and you'll see it's coming from some random direction, and at some point hits our lovely, there it is, and it's going to hit our planet, and boom, and our shields go down. This time, if I want to, I can launch a rocket that's going to intersect the meteor. Let's launch a couple of these guys, and let's see. Boom, boom, and there should be one more. There it is. Yes, I've saved the day once again. But as you can see, the score is going up. Everything's working phenomenally. No controls, but I'm sure it could add controls. We got the sun there in the distance. And let's say there are too many meteors to count. Let's see how our planet fares against this assault. Oof, the population has been reduced to 0.6 billion. Okay, somebody's... Let's make sure we finish the job here. And 0. Boom. Okay, there we go. Planet saved. Later, I'll show a few examples on Twitter/X of people testing stuff out. This was one of the ideas. It's a kind of a SaaS landing page in a specific style that I thought looked really good. So I asked it to create it. So here's that web page. I mean, it's looking really good, right? You got your pricing. You have your people saying how awesome it is. Look, Sam Altman loves it. I mean, this is all looking really, really good, right? There's some assets missing, but I mean, this is terrific. The buttons, when you hover over them, there's a hover effect. Terrific. You got links at the top, start free trial. I love it. By the way, credit to Chetaslua, who actually was I think the first person that I started posting on this and kind of drew my attention to it. But he's been doing a lot of tests on the Kimmy K2 and has been having some great results with it. This is his prompt, but I think I'm going to start using some of the ideas here, because he's like, specifically, he doesn't want, a crappy website. It needs to be production ready. I think that's a great line to add at the end of a prompt. Certainly came out pretty well. But let's kind of back up and unpack this thing just a little bit. This seems kind of like a big deal. keep in mind that this model is open source. It's not a reasoning model. So potentially we can, in the future, with some reinforcement learning, with some RL, get the thinking version of this. And I think that's coming. And I'll tell you why I think that's coming, because here you do have an option for extended thinking. It says K2 model does not support reasoning mode, but they did have that on the previous version. They did have the reasoning mode. So we might see in the future the version of this with reasoning. So kind of keep that in mind, because this might not be its final form, so to speak. All right, so what's the big deal here? Well, first and foremost, the Kimi K2, it's a mixture of experts model, right? The total size of it is 1 trillion parameters. 1 trillion, that's a lot. This, I believe, is far and away the biggest open source model. It is a mixture of experts. It has 32 billion activated parameters, right? So you're not calling the whole 1 trillion parameters for every call. It's sort of activated only 32 billion parameters. And as I say, it's state-of-the-art performance in frontier knowledge, math, and coding among non-thinking models. They're releasing the base model, kind of the foundation models. So for researchers and builders, they can take that and start building on top of it, fine-tuning it, turning it into the instruct models. The instruct models are kind of like the chat bot models that we usually work with, where it understands kind of like that back and forth structure. Most people probably haven't seen or worked with the base models unless specifically you find it somewhere to work with, but usually most of us just interact with kind of the instructive version. But they are open sourcing the base foundation model as well. So notice it looks very solid across the board for various coding, agentic and competitive coding, tool use, math, and STEM. They give you tons of sort of examples of the things that you can do with it, the use cases, JavaScript, Minecraft. That's pretty cool. So you can actually build Minecraft. All right, that's pretty neat. It runs various reports and tons of other stuff. We'll take a look at some of the results that people are having with it in just a second. But here's kind of the big benchmark comparison. By the way, the website defaults to dark mode, which of course pleases all of us greatly. But as you can see here, it's comparing it to the open source models out there. Specifically, I mean DeepSeek V3, again, the non-reasoning model. It's comparing to Claude Sonnet 4 without reasoning, without extended thinking, to Claude Opus 4, GPT 4.1, Gemini 2.5 Flash Preview. And as you can see, for a lot of these, it's either the best or competitive. I mean, it's definitely very good. And I'm pretty sure it's the best open source model just across the board, right? Qwen 3 slightly edges it out on the Aider Polyglot, but other than that, maybe a couple other ones, but for the most part, it's the best open source non-reasoning model yet. They credit some ideas from, for example, Ilya Sutskever. We covered his talk where he refers to the data on the internet as sort of the fossil fuels for these models. They're saying that this makes token efficiency during pre-training a new critical coefficient in the AI scaling laws, and that this model is forged from these very insights, that and the Arrow experience, agentic intelligence. But this is the thing that's catching a lot of people's attention. So this is the thing that they did that's kind of cool. That thing is the Muon Clip Optimizer. And if you're really into maths and charts and graphs, it has that for you. But what does this mean? I'm so glad you asked. Here's Andrew Carr. So he's ex-Google Brain. He's ex-OpenAI. It looks like he worked on Codex OpenAI. Apparently pretty good at Tetris, which is interesting. Is he EA, effective altruist, or effective accelerationist? No, he is effective cartwheeling. I'm not familiar with that organization, but I'm sure whatever philosophy they live by is fascinating. And he's saying, I have never seen such a stable multi-trillion token training run on a model that large. As the blog post puts it, Kimi K2 was pre-trained on a 15 trillion tokens using this muon clip with zero training spike, demonstrating that this approach, this muon clip optimizer, is a robust solution for stable, large-scale LLM training. Now, we might unpack all the stuff that means once we have the Google guys back on the podcast. We're going to have Joe and Jordan from the SVIC podcast back in July. We're going to have them back next week, I believe. So stay tuned for that. We'll maybe dive deeper into this. But the big idea here is that these Chinese AI labs are consistently coming up with ways of doing stuff more efficiently. Faster, better, cheaper, and seemingly it's able to scale really well. With DeepSeek, one of those breakthroughs was the GRPO, so a new approach to kind of do the reinforcement learning. So the GRPO was just a much less compute-intensive way of training these models, which allowed DeepSeek, of course, to create these models without as much access to NVIDIA's GPUs as we have here in the States, for example. And of course, as it should be, you know, when you open source this research, other people everywhere, all over the world can kind of use it and build on top of it. Here's Kyle Corbett, ex-Google, ex-Y Combinator. So he's saying like there's seems to be a new approach. I just saw this, so I haven't read up on it, but Ruler plus GRPO. Apparently, they came up with a great way to make RL training more plug and play without requiring too much labeled data or handcrafted reward functions, and they open sourced it here. I guess that technically doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, except that this is kind of that open source ecosystem effect. You have all the different labs all over the world kind of open sourcing their information, sharing their research, open sourcing their models. Everyone gets to contribute to it and learn from it, and the whole ecosystem benefits as a result. So this is kind of what you love to see. So this is Cheta Slua, and this person has been very busy with this new model. Looks like this is a comparison of that Kimi K2, the open source one, versus OpenAI's O3 Mini. Looks like on the coding tasks, it does very, very well. Kimi K2 is the DeepSeek of coding. So this is a landing page that he generated. So I had kind of my own version of it with a similar prompt. You know, we have this rotation thing where we're able to change rotation speed, the ball size, etc. Galtron board simulation. It's very fast. And he's saying it's as good as Claude Opus 4 and open source. By the way, I retweeted this earlier, but if you're not following me on Twitter/X, first and foremost, why not? You're crazy. Follow me on there if you're on there.
Twitter.
But more relevantly to the
barely on.
subject at hand, looks like Google Gemini is about to come out swinging. We're likely very soon going to see the following agentic AI features: autonomous agents that plan and execute workflows, voice call automation, automated polling for long tasks, tons of other stuff, including that extended thinking mode, the deep think or whatever they're calling it. Apparently, we're seeing the Kingfall model make more appearances every once in a while. It was live for a little bit. People got access to it again.
I mean, that would make sense, Michael. The idea is to get everything in a single workflow, ultimately, right?
So apparently Kingfall wasn't just a blip on the radar. That thing is still coming, and I think it'd be pretty huge. So what does this all mean? Well, number one, the Chinese open source AI is going to be a powerhouse, or I should say it already is and will most likely continue to be. We're probably going to see even more incredible open source stuff coming out of China. Balaji mentioned that he's expecting a barrage of open source models, including vision models, various robotic open source applications, AI models, LLMs, etc., that are developed in China and open sourced. And different people have different takes on why that's happening. Certainly, it's going to be good for the open source ecosystem. Whether or not there's some strategic component to it, we're going to see. We don't know. But certainly, this is going to put pressure on the kind of the U.S. big tech AI labs because, well, I mean, it's going to put pressure on their profit margins. I mean, what happens if this is one of the sort of default options in something like Cursor, right? If this model just sits in Cursor and you're able to run it for very cheaply. And by the way, here's that same model, Kimi K2, the 1 trillion model running on local hardware. Now, this is a 4-bit quantization, right? So it's kind of a compressed version of it. It's not the full big model.
It depends on the model. Like DeepSeek is a company that does like quantization, stockbroking, hedge fund shit. Unfortunately, I don't speak Chinese. Um, and they provided me with a button. Thank you, Moonshot. Doesn't really tell me a lot about who who they are. Who am Moonshot.cn? Founded in 23, AI startup backed by Alibaba. Yeah.
It's been sort of modified to be able to run on local hardware, but here it's running on two 512 gigabyte.
I mean, we got a bunch of people over here naming their goddamn companies after shit from the Lord of the Rings and completely missing the point of the Lord of the fucking Rings. So, I mean, shout out the Chinese dude who probably at least understands Dark Side of the Moon.
Gigabyte M3 Ultras. This is the thing that makes them run on the Apple hardware and at 1 trillion params at a speed that's actually quite usable. So that's kind of interesting, I think. I mean, definitely there's going to be applications for this. And also, I mean, the progress is not going to stop. It's unlikely to stop. So we're going to be seeing better models that are able to be run very cheaply or even locally for certain use cases. When we get the extended thinking version of this, which I assume you will, that's going to add even more functionality to it. So it's going to be interesting to see where that lands. Because again, I mean, you know, benchmarks, I don't think anybody loves benchmarks, but they're useful at a glance. You know, they kind of show you kind of roughly where everybody's sitting. You have to kind of verify that that's indeed kind of the actual ability that they're going to have in real world use cases. But I mean, the gap between open source and proprietary models is closing fast. For some of my testing, this thing is better than some of the recently released models from the, you know, big frontier AI labs here in the States. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you made this far, thank you so much for watching. My name is Wes Roth, and that's Pico Rick, or at least an SVG of Pico Rick, or at least as he's imagined by Kimi K2. Keep in mind, we still are waiting for the new DeepSeek model potentially, so buckle up, and I'll see you in the next one.
Let's talk first about
Speaking of open source, Hugging Face looks to open source AI robotics.
About the general idea behind what Reachie is supposed to do. What is the main benefit or the main added value that someone buying this is going to see right out of the box?
So I think there will be a lot of things. It's an AI robot that's designed to be a human-robot interaction platform. So it can move its head, it can move antenna, it can basically share a lot of emotion with the user, but it also has sensor. It has a camera, it has a microphone, it has a speech audio speakers built in. And so our general idea is that you can plug this model with, all the new AI models we've seen right now, which can generate speech, which can digest image, we can understand what you say. And we think there is a need right now for a very accessible platform for people to start building this human-robot interaction.
So as people sort of get this device, and the idea, obviously, of it being open source, being, I guess, set up in a way where you kind of have that crowdsource ability to tinker with this thing and make it better, what do you think would be the advancements that we would see most soonest, I should say, most immediately?
So you have to picture this as a device that can be used in many, many ways. So it will ship as a kit, a little bit like Lego. You can build it. You can build it with your kids, with your family and friends, and then it will be provided with a couple of apps already. And I think one specificity as well is that you can run this app locally. So you don't have to actually send data in the cloud if you want. You can also use it, but you don't have to. And so it will ship with a couple of apps. We've already been developing internally fun games where the AI interact with you in a fun way. But what we expect and what we're really excited about is to see the community create new apps, right? So we'll provide a SDK that make it very easy to make new behavior. I don't know, if you're cooking, you put it next to you, and maybe you want to design it as a little cook assistant.
Nah, he's Dutch. I understand the confusion.
That comments your cooking and maybe give you tips for your recipes. And then once you build this, you actually want to share with the community, and that's where the power of the Hugging Face Hub is crazy, because you can just actually upload this, and it's automatically became accessible to all the other robots. Another user can point on your robot's cook space and use it locally.
I am curious, with regards to robotics, why don't you think we've seen more either open source or open...
Which is why I understood your confusion.
...and weighted business models in this space?
It's a good question. I think a lot of people have been focusing on these very expensive humanoid robots, right? And the price tag for this is obviously more in the $80,000, right? And so here it doesn't make a lot of sense, I think, to do them open source right now. But when you picture something much simple like Reachie Mini, which still has like 10 motors in it and it can do quite a lot of things, but it cannot walk, for instance, then you're making it open source, kind of value much more the type of behaviors you can build and how the community can use it, and the community that can actually tweak, play with it is much wider than humanoid robots. So I think that's one reason we're maybe the first to tackle this segment.
I know this product's just getting off the ground here. This is primarily designed and made in the United States. And I am curious that as you expand this product and any sort of descendant products out of it, how are you going to navigate, let's just say, a somewhat topsy-turvy trade and tariff environment that has sort of disrupted where you source things and even to some extent where you can sell things?
That's a good question. We've been surprised, actually, because obviously the US market was our first market, and I think we are nearing 1 million revenue on this product already after just a couple of days, and I think 60% roughly of it is out of the US. But you see, 40% is from the rest of the world, right? With Europe first, but then also Asia and South America leading after that. And so I think for us it will be interesting to see how we can source some of these parts more locally and see if we can actually maybe build this robot in various places of the world and take advantage of the simplicity in a way of some of its design.
In the world of unsettling science,
Yeah, which Raza was his point about that you can run the entire thing locally. You don't have to send anything anywhere, right? And for people who regard that as a concern, they built in that solution. And also everything being open source makes it a lot easier. Samson's homie, my online attorney in residence. This one's for you, baby. Science news. Giving robots a moist mouth and human-like sense of taste.
In the world of unsettling science, researchers have endowed robots with a human-like sense of taste. Believe it or not, there is a purpose to this. Now, this is the first time that this technology has worked in a moist environment, like that of our mouths. They use a graphene oxide ionic sensor, and it's able to successfully determine nuances between foods. So it could determine the flavor of cola, for example. So more than just what we think of as sweet, salty, sour, spicy. Apparently there's 2 others now. There's umami, which is savory, and apparently ammonium chloride. Yeah, there's a horrifying Swedish salty licorice that's flavored with ammonium, and it's apparently the 6th flavor. No idea what it tastes like, but if anyone's tried it...
Okay. I know that we were dunking on the Dutch. But can we talk about the Swedish? The Swedes are out of pocket. Right? Isn't that, what's that fish? Is that Swedish or is that Norwegian? Oh, it's all of them. Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Consisting of dried lutefisk, dried whitefish, usually cod, that's rehydrated and treated with lye. It's a polarizing dish with a unique texture and often described as having a pungent smell. Despite the strong opinions, lutefisk remains a cherished part of Christmas feasts and cultural celebrations for many.
Let me know. So why give robots a sense of taste? Well, the researchers want...
Here you go. Who asked? Who wanted to know about Raza? Raza, this is why they're doing it.
Want to use this in prosthetics, so people who have lost their tongues, for example, or perhaps have neurodegenerative diseases, and many are born without the ability to smell or taste. This could restore it by using a prosthetic. They also operate with memoristors, which are some of my favorite neuromorphic pieces of robotics. Memoristors operate very much like our own neurons, and they remember when voltage goes through them. So if they experience something, like say the taste of strawberries, they'll then be able to remember that they had it before and identify it. That's something that can go along with other neuromorphic AIs, so it could allow a robot to smell, taste, and have a sensory experience based on that. Now, this is just modeling what neurons behave like, so many would say that it's not really a sensory experience in the way that we do, but I have hope. Now, one area of robotics that this technology could be incorporated with very easily...
Do you have high hopes?
Are our brain organoid friends. Yes, you can grow a human brain from stem cells, and you can hook them up to...
Jesus Christ. I had no idea we were going back to the brain organelles, but all roads lead back to the brain organelles.
To a computer.
Fuck, Stellar Wingman, I am this close to overpaying for a fucking burrito at this place down the street because, I don't know, I was driving and a need, right? I need a burrito in my life. Oh.
But they're limited in their sensory experiences because they are in fact a brain in a jar. They can receive ordered signals or disordered signals, but I would be interested to see in some of the robots that they've been operating having a real sensory experience and how they would grow around that. We do know that they're very good at operating bodies, we know that they're very good at spatial learning, but we haven't given them sensation, and this could be the way that we do it. Now, there is an area of computation where they're making virtual brains. You can actually model that spiking behavior, model our neurons into lobular forms, and they're pretty good at doing things that traditional AI is not. Operating a soft, fleshy body is one of them. It might be because that's kind of what our brains are evolved to do. They're also pretty good at navigating through a virtual world or in a robotic body in our world. What we haven't done is given them a true sensory experience. What do you think? Do you want robots with moist mouths that are capable of differentiating between Earl Grey and green tea?
One's in chat if you want a robot with a moist mouth.
Creating robots with true metabolism that need to eat are not far off as is. I've shown you a few models for them that involve using grown tissues and putting them onto a robot body. We're just slowly replacing more and more of their parts with synthetic ones rather than lab-grown ones.
So today, I'm going to talk about...
Not today. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. Oh. The stream will come back tomorrow. What am I wanting? I asked not Oliver, what's her name? The Annie. Oliver is consider yourself at home. Consider yourself one of the family. We've taken to you so strong. It's clear we're going to get along. I make no guarantees. There may be a burrito in my future, but it's a little place, right? Now it is, I've had the burrito before. It was quite a hefty burrito for a reasonable amount of time. But to be fair, I do have, I made pulled pork overnight last night in the slow cooker. And I really should eat the food that I have in the house. I just really want a burrito. Because it's a burrito, right? How can you not want a burrito? ¿Dónde está my fucking burrito? Oh no, we're not doing Okay, we're gonna raid someone new, recommended by Kel Thickness. So stick around for the raid, even if you have someplace else to be. I will be back tomorrow, right around 1 o'clock, assuming that I will. Yes, no, actually, Hydron, yes, you did also recommend them, and I wasn't following them, and now I am, and so on and so forth. So enjoy the raid. I will be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Enjoy your day, which is already in progress, and if you can, fill it with burritos. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shoggy loves you. And so do I. Be great.